You can give me a clap.
Um,
How's the eye line?
I got some fucking pillow on me.
It's good.
Yeah.
All right, so tell me about the Remington factory.
Wait,
Well-
what's that loud? Is that noise being in? Is that the air?
Air,
Do
yeah.
you hear it?
I hear it.
I mean, I hear it
Well,
pretty
yeah. Adam, do you hear it?
audibly.
It's barely in the lob.
I think we can shut it off easily. We
Yeah,
should, but
if you can shut it off, let's see let's see if it makes a difference.
Just blowing cold air.
You mind shutting off the air? Is that cool? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, that's better.
Great.
Okay, so tell me again about the Remington factory.
I was gonna tell you, like, it was my first full day on the job. I'm pretty sure a guy died. That was one of the first things I remember about working there. A dude died. It was an electrical accident, and you know, like these factories have X days since an accident, you know, and they always count them up. And I remember it immediately going down to zero, and just like the morale of the company and everything. I was just a temp, you know, but everybody wore it really hard, not just because the guy died, but just because they felt like their jobs were jeopardized too, with a safety violation so extreme. That was kind of just the environment I came into when I worked there. I don't mean to in any way malign the shop, but yeah, that was my entrance to that place.
And tell me again about why did you start working there, and what exactly, like, I remember you mentioned
It's
it.
a complicated story.
You mentioned it to me a few years ago.
Yeah.
Like the first day we were filming, but I couldn't recall exactly.
Like I think the real story is that I just wanted to impress, I think, my girlfriend at the time. Like, her dad worked there. I really think that's what it came down to. Not just that I wanted to impress her, but I really think that's kind of the place from which it came. Like, it made a lot of sense. Like, and this is factory work. And though I got kind of a taste for doing it later, I was like, well, I mean, he'll respect me if I show that I'm not too proud to do that kind of stuff, and I don't just have to go work like everybody else did for just nonsense jobs this summer. So yeah, I signed up, man. I worked for Remington. Her dad worked there in a different place, but anyway, it was really good. I became like I was definitely more persuaded by, like, you know, socialist realism in film and stuff. Like, nothing pretty about it, especially temp work, right? And then the later temp work I would have, just really nothing pretty, but I think I just did it to impress the girls.
What's it like in there, inside that factory?
Yeah, it's amazing, actually. At the time, I didn't really understand. Like, I had no context. All the lines are just, like, completely custom built. You know, the technicians are from Europe, and the machinery itself, some of the machinery is so, like, ancient. And the techniques themselves, I mean, there's not just trade secrets there, like, whole unique ways of doing things would just be gone if it disappeared. Just large, loud machinery, whole, like, rolls of just raw elemental copper, you know, and just heavy industry, and it's really nice to be around it, right? It's just, at least, I don't know, for, like, a man, like, to see that kind of stuff, there's just something, I don't know, atavistic about it. It's deep.
And what about the tower? You said you worked in the tower?
No, I worked at the bottom of the tower. I worked at the very bottom, like where so at the bottom of the tower is me and all the temps and shot shell, and then some boys to the side, they would load this, like, pig lead up on a belt, and it would get melted at the top of this furnace. These old dudes, like, in armor, would, like, melt it in this furnace, and then would rain down. And as it rained, it would, like, get sorted out into different densities and weights and different loads of shot, you know. And then that would all filter down to us, where we would, like, package it, palletize it, and send it to the warehouse and for shipping and all that. Yeah, it was called shot shell, and we worked at the very bottom of the tower.
Cool. So basically, I'm going to go over a bunch of stuff that we missed. But first, I want to ask you, because we just met with Professor Fontaine,
Yeah.
and he had some pretty amazing things to say about you.
Really?
Like, first of all, he said you were the best student he's had in 27 years of teaching. how'd you feel about him?
Yeah. I mean, it was okay. I want to be like charitable here to my school, but everybody knows it's not hard to get into my school where I went for undergrad, you know. And there's a certain attitude you can take about it, and I took this attitude other people did as well. Like you can do all kinds of stuff because academically it wasn't that rigorous, but Fontaine was the first real like when I took his class, it was like, oh wow, this is what like college is like in the movies, you know, like when you're a kid. Or like this guy just didn't care, you know. He had our school wasn't like a research university, right? It's more like a teaching university, and this guy was about like kicking your ass, you know. And that's great, especially in the humanities, where basically in the humanities, especially even at the Ivy League now, there's just this kind of peace, this like separate peace everybody has with each other. Like, all right, it's a non-aggression pact. It's like, all right, I won't give you a B as long as you don't mess with my, you know, the nice thing I got going here, this cushy job. So everybody gets, but the Fontaine will just like fail you, man. He doesn't care. And he's like, look, A's are excellent. They're for excellent work. He just, not just the rigor of the class, right? But everything about this guy, like he just didn't care. It was great. And just like, there was this expectation that, okay, I expect this level of work to be performed. I expect to see it. And only the people that show me that will get the merit, you know. It was fun, man. It was a whole lot of fun just because it drove everybody like crazy. Everybody studied like 3 times as hard for that class. And it's just really enjoyable, man. Yeah.
Tell us about
One second.
I don't even think like he wouldn't like that I said that.
You caught it?
Just on one.
Should I grab this?
Max is here.
Yeah.
Like, so there's lots of difficult professors or whatever. It was just really enjoyable, man. Like how hard it was. That's what I. But if you're still filming, let me know.
This other camera's rolling, but let me just put this battery in here. I don't know why that copped
This
down.
Biden thing is like interminable, man. Like, just fucking do it. You know?
It's all part of the plan. I mean, it has to be.
I think his people just know that like they're getting free press out of this for months. They might as well keep going to the last minute.
Yeah.
The polling on this is still pretty terrible, right? Like 50% of registered Democrats wanted to run, but only like 40% of that 50% said they'd pick him as their first choice. So like he'll get in, but that's it.
Second camera's back up. You want to wait for Alex for a second here? Coming back to the door.
Yeah, wave him down.
I don't see him.
Just tell him to come in.
Axelrod got rid of his mustache. Oh, dude. Show you my card. See this card?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
He's gonna go right now.
Yeah.
Hillary.
That's the real deal right there,
Yeah, I gotta ask you about that actually.
man. Check it out here. And I bought that as fast as I could. Look, I was like number 9,000. I bought it as fast as I could. I wanted a low party number, you know. when they're clearing streets, you know, I wanted like a number 100.
We gotta get that on camera. Good. So Fontaine told us about.
Let me say too, look, not just because of like he was a difficult personality. The man just, you know, he just cared about. He cared about the subject matter. He cared about what he was doing, and he cared about kicking ass, and it was just enjoyable all around. And I was never, and have never, even in law school, I was never challenged like that, and it was amazing.
He mentioned he thought that the biggest mark he left on the school was the library. Can you tell us about that story?
Yeah. I was with the student government for a long time at UCA. So, and look, man, we just didn't have like a tier one. We didn't have like a proper university library system. We didn't have a decent interlibrary loan. Like there weren't budgets. Like you couldn't. I was constantly just in my own work. Just constantly having to go off campus or other people's libraries and stuff to get stuff. So, me and the president at the time when I was a junior, I was just like, look, we can easily make this happen. You know, they pass like 2-3% student fee increases every year. Let's just make a campaign about the library, and then it was just a matter of like the politics of it, because we were in a transition year. We had a new president, and everyone thought, oh, we'll do it when, you know, like the administration or the staff, Senate, they all thought, well, we'll do it when we have a new president. But I just figured the politics would be easy. Like if we got the faculty senate and the staff senate together with the student senate, we could just like leverage. We just create the political leverage to get it done, and they couldn't do anything about it. And I don't know if I was. It's like everything else in my life. Like I don't know if I was right or not, but in doing it, I ended up being right. Like I don't know if my judgment of the situation was correct at all, but we had a couple meetings, passed resolutions, got the board. You know, I kind of secretly courted a number of the board of directors the year before and made it happen. I made it all about academics, and this was cutting across the winds at the time that, you know, from the Democrat Gazette and other people saying UCA wasn't a serious academic institution. So it just kind of like, I put myself in a way, and the whole issue in a way, that like they had to accept it to show that they were serious about their stewardship of the university. It was not difficult to do. It was just measuring the politics. And we doubled the library's budget. And now it's 24 hour, it's got a decent interlibrary loan, and yeah. Easy to do, not that hard to do in the end.
The other thing he mentioned that I felt like was actually really interesting was he talked about your response to the Milton essay, Areopagitica. Do you recall this? He said he felt like it had
Of course it did.
It changed you in a way that.
Yeah. Do you know about the Areopagitica?
Well, since he talked about it, I spent most of the plane ride reading about it. But do you want to tell me about it, and also how
it parallels?
Yeah, it's actually uncanny in my parallels, because it's about prior restraint, basically.
Yeah, it's about the unlicensed. Unlicensed printing. Yeah, look, a lot of Tudor Stuart Britain, and basically like the Elizabethan period, the black market in literature there and printing, and that whole period I was exposed to with the survey of Tudor Stuart literature in Fontaine's class. Fontaine is a Miltonist, so I read most of Milton's great stuff, and Areopagitica is his essay basically arguing for it's almost like a classical liberal position. He just argues that, look, in order for the contest of ideas, these phrases that would inspire Locke and Burke and people later, in order for this animating contest of liberty to really happen, for truth to prevail, you have to have this wide open marketplace and ideas and speech. And he was arguing to the Star Chamber, Privy Council, all these people, like you shouldn't be licensing the printing press. You know, the evolution of the printing press was totally different in the UK and Britain than it was on the continent. A lot of it was done through royal patents and the Stationers Guild and subject matter patents, and anyway, blasphemy laws and stuff. So Fontaine anyway. Milton is arguing, like I think passionately and correctly, from the best flowers of liberal thought, that you just there to be a free society, you have to have unlicensed speech. And I don't think I have to point out that we place ourselves in that tradition. I don't know if you knew this, maybe you did know this. When I started Defense Distributed, I had a manifesto page. It's like 2012, I started Defense Distributed. This happened like for a year. I had a manifesto page. When you clicked that, it just took you to the Dartmouth translation of the Areopagitica.
I didn't know that.
No one, go look it up. It's in the record. No one ever really, was like, oh, tell me about but it was right there. You know, I placed this from the beginning in that kind of Eisenstein tradition of like, this is what the printing press means. This is what the freedom to print means. Even though it was kind of like tongue in cheek, right? Oh, printing. Still, it's this tradition of the production of ideas, thought, information that must be like necessarily unregulated.
So tell me about first reading it, though. Like, did you know about the Areopagitica before you were assigned that in class,
I don't think so. No, I don't think I knew.
And how did it affect you when you first read it?
I think it was my survey of Milton, yeah, where I read Areopagitica. And like only the next year or two did I even do the Greco-Roman stuff, so I didn't know about it before then. I'm pretty sure. The history of it, what the Areopagitica was back in antiquity. But no, like it certainly resonated with my politics at the time, which I think were more conservative, but still. The first thing that caught me was just the poetry of it. You know how he argued. He came from he's arguing to religious authorities, and he's saying no, actually it's ultimately more Christian, more ethical. Just really powerful. People take the stuffing out of Milton for not being that great a poet. And Napoleon hated Milton, for example, but just really strongly argued. I mean, if you read it, it's really captivating. And even though the English is quite old, you can see like the spirit of it's really like it's an easy read. It's a strong read, and I think I digested it. I read it that one time and I had the whole thing. I digested it completely, and I've gone back to it over and over and over again.
So did it change your views at the time, or were you already kind of thinking in line with?
No, I was there. It was just amazing to see it, because I mean Milton was a radical Republican, man. He was one of these. He was a Cromwell boy. They were. Say what you will about them now, right? But the English they're crazy, and they were contemplating killing a king, right? Raising an army and basically like creating a republic for where one had never been before, and so like this just incredible period of Republican ideals, and just amazing to see how far-reaching his thought was, and how like kind of anchored it was in just this conviction that truth had to be produced from a marketplace of falsehoods and slander, and the true wild jungle capitalism of speech and ideas.
So I remember when we first, or a few years ago, I forgot to ask you specifically about this, and we talked about this on the phone, but we didn't get this on camera. So I'm just going to jump forward a few years from Frontane's class to law school. Tell me about the decision to start Defense Distributed, like where that came from. I know I know you've talked to me about it like a million times, but we honestly have never even gotten it down.
I can do it better. I think.
Yeah,
because it's. I was talking to Ben about it.
So basically, what I want to get is the seed of the idea, like where it started, then how it started, and then up until pretty much like dropping out of law school. That we never really covered, so I just want to kind of get that down.
Okay. So I had done a year. You want me looking at you?
Yeah.
I had done a whole year at UT, and done it, as hard and disciplined as I could. I mean, like I tried to put all other thoughts and stuff just out of mind. Just this just, I don't know, grit your teeth, dig in, get this done. And man, my mind was failing. But Ben Dinio and I had been working on a couple things in my spare time, just throwaway projects, throwaway ideas, and that's most of Ben's ideas are just toss away ideas like that. But we were on a phone call in, I think it was like late March or April of 2012, and he said, we could become like arms manufacturers. And I'm like, so overeducated arms, like anybody could be an arms manufacturer. Like, how is that attractive? And he's like, well, there's 3D printers. We could do that. I'm like I don't think that's a real technology, Ben. Like, I think that's just like plastics. And he was like, well, who knows? And basically from there, I mean, in that phone call, in that moment, I was like, well, wow, he's right. Like, if we do it, it's not that great if you can do it, but in isolation, but if you can do it, that means other people can do it. So if we were to do it, the opportunity would be in publishing that we did it, and then making it the WikiLeaks of firearms. It all just crystallized instantly. I was like, well, look, if it is possible on a networked material printer that's connected to a computer, connected to the internet, okay, it's the WikiLeaks of guns if you do it. And that's how I saw it immediately. So I described to him, it was WikiLeaks for guns. And
why WikiLeaks?
because WikiLeaks, okay, Cablegate had just happened like the year before, like it just really concluded 2010, 2011. And WikiLeaks was about showing that the internet's the only game in town and that it negates everything. Like it allows a new class of politics. Yeah, like it enables the powerful to do more powerful, terrible things. But he was, with Bitcoin and everything, Assange was showing up the world. He was negating this whole polite, this barrier on, what do you call it? Anyway, Assange was just negating this whole like polite secrecy that nations kept with each other about their diplomatic dealings, and just throwing it out there in public, wrecking shop. He's still doing it, and that had not really been done that way before. And I didn't discover Tim May and the cypherpunk and crypto anarchist literature until about a year later. A year later? No. It was still much later than when we came up with the idea, but it just made sense to me. It was the same thing. If WikiLeaks could do it for diplomatic cables and communications, we could do it for sensitive technology. Not in that literal sense, but it was like, this is a technology we know people don't want you to have. And not just in our country, right? Like anywhere in the world. And the internet would allow it to happen. It was WikiLeaks for guns, and it was like, how could we create an organization that could do the same thing?
So then why the YouTube video? That very first video, why did you decide to take it to YouTube?
Remember, that YouTube video was a crowdfunding pitch. That first video I did. I wanted to raise the money to do it. And I didn't have any money. No one I knew had any money. And I asked a couple people that I knew, hey, like, look, you want to help me do this? And they're like, oh, this is a terrible idea. I'm not going to help you do this. I was like, only by using the internet could we possibly find a collection of people that would, consider it worth doing. And then I tried to sell it in super palatable terms, and cast a wide net. Like, I wanted to cast a net that would snag red state Republicans, right? Tea Party types, people, with this old-fashioned idealism for liberty, and at least their American notion of liberty. And at the same time, I wanted to kind of send a couple signals for the digital radicals, like, yeah, and we're ready to do it this way, Name check BitTorrent, name check, anyway. I wanted to just cast as wide a net as possible, just so we could raise like 18 grand.
Why crowdfunding?
It just made sense.
Had you seen a successful campaign?
Everybody'd seen Kickstarter. Like, everybody knows about Kickstarter by 2012 when we're doing this.
Yeah.
And Indiegogo, which...
But I think there's a specific choice of crowdfunding there's always got to be a conversation. Like, do we crowdfund or do we go for private equity or...
Right, so like I knew it wasn't, it's not what Ben proposed. It wasn't going to be a business. It wasn't going to be something that we, quit what we were doing and went to work on. It's like, you do it once. It's like a stunt. You do it once, you release it. There's no business here. Like, there's nothing to invest in. And in fact, for many months later, I know I'm skipping ahead, but for many months later, actually, like, businesses, local businesses in Austin, Texas, connected to farms would like be attracted to us to see what we were doing. Oh, hey, what can we do? Let's collaborate. And when we explained, no, it's just, it's open source, man. We're just gonna like do it and release it. And they were just like, whoa, then we don't want to. There's nothing here for us. So the decision about crowdfunding was pretty quick. It was still at my prompting. I was like, look, I know how to get the money to do this. We'll just go online and we'll tell the people, okay, look, in exchange for your donation, we'll put the file up. I mean, it has to come from this place of pure idealism. And so few people are already in that like enough of a libertarian mindset to even think this is a good idea. And it's a much smaller subset of those people, even if they heard it, that would be willing to give you like $5. So I just thought the only way to reach enough people to get any money at all is to crowdfund it and then just gas it and just like push it as hard as you can on the internet and find those communities of people. And I don't know. Now I know people, like, I could, if it was just a small project, again, that I needed to do, yeah, I'd just be like, hey, man, can we have, like, 15 grand and, like, get this done? And, like, I'll find a way to pay you back. I could do that now, but I couldn't do that then.
So how'd it go? The crowdfunding campaign, how did it go? How much did you raise?
It didn't go well at all. It should have just, like other things, it should have just kind of disappeared. Like, I was online every night with Daniel. I mean, it was like it was a 30-day campaign. And every night we were just like pushing. And I think we got like $1,800 by the time like 20 days were gone. So there's only like 10 days left. and we were like not even 1% of our. Were we 1%? Yeah. Anyway, so it would have just passed, right? But authority stepped into the situation. No, come on down, man.
Sorry guys.
It's okay.
No worries. What's up?
Well, I need to do one more test with the heating. If not, I gotta go and get a new thermostat and replace it.
Okay.
It seems like it's just to replace.
Yeah.
So can I turn the heating for 1 second?
Yeah.
For like 3 minutes,
Yeah.
and then I will get out of here.
Well, do you want to just eat our lunch real quick? Since it's here. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Nog.
Yeah, I'm rolling all around here.
All right, give me a clap. Okay, so the crowdfunding video, how'd it go?
Yeah, look, it wasn't just the video. The video got lots of views, so it got picked up. People were like, whoa, this is crazy. People, are they serious? Are they really trying to do this? And that was the first question Andy asked me when he was with Forbes. He's like, look, my first question is this for real? Is this serious? I mean, try to make it that way, but it didn't raise a lot of money though. It wasn't raising money. 2/3 of the way through, we maybe had like 1% of the money. It was when, after a final piece of press, somebody flagged it, and Indiegogo, took it down. I'll try to answer that again.
Just start with Indiegogo flagging it.
Yeah, no, I won't do the whole thing. Like, we were only at 1% of the money, and we weren't gonna make it. Like, it was just gonna pass into obscurity, like every other crowdfunding thing you've never heard of. But Indiegogo took it down, and that's when people started caring. Not just because of that moment, but you see how the internet works now. This is pretty much common knowledge to people now. Something bad happens, people leap to their feet, and you can get a ton of press out of it. So it was the first of a series of instructions for me, that what seemed to be a setback wasn't. It was the way to get it done. And so when outside authority entered into situations and tried to prevent us from doing what we wanted to do, more often than not, it became the way of achieving what we wanted to get done.
Okay, so then you got the printer, but then it got taken away.
So basically, like, Indiegogo took the campaign down. People were like, oh, this is crazy. They killed the printed gun. Now people cared about donating. So I got like 10 grand. And then there's a dude in Europe that gave me like 5 grand. And I found another guy to give me a couple more. And that was enough money where I was like, okay, instead of buying a printer, I'll lease one, and I'll make the money last a lot longer. And so I negotiated with a regional rep for Stratasys, a Uprint SE Plus printer. And I was right in the end. That was the kind of printer, that technology was the kind of printer we would need. It would take months to figure that back out again, but anyway, I rented that printer. It was a pretty good deal. It was like 3 grand for like 2 months or something. And paperwork took a long time, background checks, credit checks, all this stuff. And finally, after like a month, I got it. And like the day after I got it, I got a call from like their logistics company. They're like, where can we get it? Where can we pick it up? I'm like, what do you, no, I mean, you just delivered it. This is a bad call. Like, tell your supervisor, like, you're done. And then I kind of sat on that night, and I was like, that probably wasn't a mistake. Something's probably happened that I don't know about. And then the next day I got an email from their general counsel. And 2 days later it was gone.
What was their explanation?
To me, and in the letters that they sent to me, that would be the basis for like future legal action. They said I didn't inform them that I intended to use it to produce firearms, and that's not a violation of their terms, and it's not a violation of the law using it to produce firearms. But as they kind of got raked over the coals in the press, they ended up coming up, after like a week, they ended up coming up with a position that like, well, we didn't want him to violate the Undetectable Firearms Act. They didn't know about that. Nobody knew about that until it was in the press. They wanted to yank it. There's provisions in their terms. It's like, you can't use the printer to harm the reputation of the company and whatever. They were within their rights, but they were just grasping at reasons to take it. They just took it.
So how did you finally how were you finally able to print it?
The Liberator?
Yeah.
Look, man, I mean, that was a long road, okay? So, I wouldn't have a printer again in my custody for like 9 months. What I did instead, once I lost a printer, I realized, well, I've still got all this money. I can't get a printer probably, because now I'm like, you know, people just Google me and find out who I am. I'll never get one. So I just went to people who had printers. And I started, instead of, because I didn't know my assumptions about the Stratasys printer were right. So I started printing things that had already been printed out there on the internet on other people's printers, of different kinds of printers. So a company heard about the Stratasys repossession and offered to help me. A couple companies did. So I learned about SLA printing. I learned about object printing, VisiJet materials, and ABS plastic. And that's when I really started my education in 3D printing. I started going to all these different shops, these people's houses, printing stuff, learning about it, and then breaking it and figuring out what there was to figure out. Then maybe like in another 6 months, I had a couple engineers that were working with us, and after all that time, I went to Europe, I met Amir, and I came back, and then we decided to test it out on a printer that we bought. So that was in May of 2013. It's a long story, but this whole time as well, like, it wasn't just we were wandering in the woods, we were really learning, and we were also creating this narrative in the media that like there's this group and they're trying to print a gun, but instead of just going from point A to point B, we printed rifle receivers. We perfected those receivers. They're now the basis upon which all the other rifle receiver work is done now online. We perfected the AR-15 magazine, the AK-47. We began that work. The AK-47 magazine. We did a lot of stuff really quickly, and then we started to work on the pistol. So we went around the world, you know, and then we started working.
And at what point did you decide to drop out of law school? You're in law school this whole time, right?
I'm in law school the entire time the printed gun happened. I didn't tell you this, but I went to go speak. I went to go speak at UT, kind of like last minute notice. Or maybe I told you last time I was on the phone. But one of the professors they had there was Leo Graglia, and I was like, why do I know that name? And he said, oh, I know Mr. Wilson well. You know, he never showed up for my statutory interpretations class. And, like, this was his introduction, you know. I'm just like, oh, no. And basically the way I got away with doing all this at UT was because these professors, they don't have to keep attendance. As long as you come and sit the exam, you're not penalized for not showing up. That's how most of the classes work. Now, the ABA doesn't want it to be that way, and more now, you know, only real law schools let you get away with this stuff anymore. But I was able to do it because I would sit the exams at the end of the semester and never go to class. Every single day I just did wiki web. But by the time Liberator happened, like the Liberator, we did Liberator on the day of my civil procedures exam. And that even the night before, I was like, well, maybe I can make the exam. It just wasn't going to work. And it was in that moment. Now, I had some people in San Francisco a couple months before that say, like, look, it won't be a bad thing if you quit. You know, you'll always, you know, we'll help you out, whatever. That ended up not being true, but I at least felt like secure enough to drop out if I ever had to. And then I did. The day of Liberator. And then, like, I had no safety net. I thought I had a safety net, and I didn't. So it was really, really tough the next 6 months.
All right, so I think that covers what we missed. I'm trying to think if there was something else.
Oh, shit.
All right, so the last time I saw you in Austin, pretty much the day after I left, you served the government and John Kerry with papers.
It was the day you were there, man.
Yeah, I was there.
Actually, it went down like just like an hour after you had left.
Yeah. So how did that feel? Finally getting to that point.
Yeah. It wasn't just like serving. So service took a little bit of time, right? Like actually serving people took a little bit of time, but yeah, we were able to drop that one, and like really no one was aware that it was happening, and it was announced like simultaneously by the New York Times and Wired magazine, and yeah, I watched it go down, and man, it felt like I've had better days, right? Like I've had times where I'm like, this is the greatest moment of my life. This didn't compare with that, but it was powerful. Like it finally felt like I'd made good on the last 2 years of effort and striving, and just wandering in the dark for the most part. It made it seem like I'd clawed my way kind of back, and I was able to contest what was being done. I liked it. Like symbolically, I thought it was rich, and I was quite proud. I'm still proud. I was really proud.
So tell me about court, but I want you to like kind of set the scene for it. Like
Yeah.
like what? Because we weren't there. We weren't able to have any cameras. Like what?
Yeah.
Like what did it look like? How did it feel? What went down that day?
Okay, so this district court is in this like really new building, this shiny new glitzy building, polished stone and aluminum and glass. Really like the nicest federal court building I've seen. So we go in there, and I scoped it out the day before with Ben, just to make sure I wasn't late. They didn't want me to be late, and I told everybody to come if they were going to come to wear a suit. They were going to the lawyers were going to be really pissed if no one was, if people weren't wearing suits. So
What people?
it's my people. I told everybody at the shop, like, look, come out. This is what it's all about. Come out and watch it if you want. But don't come out if you don't have like a jacket, So they all came out. But I'll tell you, man, like it was very nice. It was like a TV courtroom, but I was just really underwhelmed with the judge's like apparent preparation, the quality of the questions he asked, and what the state's attorneys were able to get away with at oral arguments. It was just procedurally, it was very like, it was fun to watch it happen for like an hour, but by the second hour it was like, man, this is crazy. And I know it's only like the kind of opening moment, but you could just tell by the questions being asked that no one was really prepared to deal with the issues. It was just how to even give an example. It was like TV type things. I mean, maybe the judge was just being friendly for some of the questions, but he's like, oh, I hear you can print them in metal now. I'm like, this has nothing to do with this is a bad example for you, but it was very clear by some of the opening questions that judges are busy, whatever, but it wasn't going to be our day, He hadn't gotten down to like the depth of what we were ready to discuss and fight about. It was not going to bode well. You could just tell.
Were you nervous? How did you feel sitting there?
I wasn't nervous, man. I was excited to get it going, and when the U.S. when the State Department attorneys came in, I was like, finally. I mean, I wanted them to just say stupid things to the judge. Just say the things to the judge. Because beforehand, it was just like they can lean on you. They can lean on you and do be as capriciously malicious as they want. But now they have to say things to a judge about it. And that doesn't mean maybe a whole lot in the end, but they have to say it and commit to it. And I just wanted to finally get to this part of the process where they have to now kind of justify all of the shenanigans. And they did, and they said the things, and I was sufficiently satisfied that it was nonsense. They were like, well, he can put things in the mail, and it was great and electric for me to watch that happen, because I was like, this will not stand the test of time. People will read this and go like, oh my God, can you believe that was the position? And I felt vindicated in that. I had taken it to that point, and I felt like there was some strength in going there, but I could tell the day wasn't ours. And that was very hard to then sit through, 2 hours knowing, oh man, how long is it going to be till we can get a panel of judges that even cares about what we've presented here.
Tell me about the state's attorneys. Like, you'd never seen them before,
No, I've never
and they walk in. Like, what did you think?
I wasn't impressed. Physically, there's nothing impressive about these people, but then there's nothing impressive about me physically either. It's just you're dealing with people who are assigned to the task, who maybe have to take a little bit of ownership of it, but were assigned last minute and surprised. And so they've done the best they can to kind of kludge their arguments together. But I don't think that they're not really passionately committed to what they have to argue. And in fact, one of them was just a DOJ honors guy. It looked like just some kid at Justice that drew the short straw and had to argue against the Second Amendment claims. And he just stood there and read his outline to the judge. It was embarrassing. And later, when I brought the guys out from the shop, they came to the court. I was like, "Look, you can be two guys. because this kid, this state attorney, he was clearly millennial, and so are we. And I said, look, you can be one of two people. You can be that guy for power. You can be what we're doing. There's your divide. And he looked dead. He looked uncomfortable. He looked like he was flailing and striving so that one day, 20 years from now, he'd have some respectable standard of living and a little piece of ass that maybe he could be. You know what I mean? Nothing. Like, what was that about? To watch him do it in real time. It reminded me almost too of like, it was better that I was here. It was better that I didn't graduate law school, because look at what that gets you. Shriveled up and nothing. And the only other part that really irked me at all was to listen to the state attorney lie to the judge about how to make a Liberator pistol. Like, I don't fucking know how to make one, right? And I don't know if it's malicious or what. You can just get away with things in oral arguments. You can just ad lib, and sometimes you don't even mean to say what you say. So I don't even know what the strategy here is. But curiously, they contradicted me on how you make a Liberator to the judge. And this is in the transcripts. They're like, oh, actually, Your Honor, what Mr. Wilson said is not correct about the materials. But acetone vapor treatment doesn't do this to ABS plant. Like, why pick that to contradict? Because, of course, it does. This is well documented that it works this way. They just, for that moment, right there in front of the judge, it was important for them, for whatever reason, to make me a liar about making that pistol. The only company that ever made that pistol. The world expert, right? If I know how to do anything in the world, at all, any one thing, it's how to make that pistol. And they had to tell the judge that I was lying about how to make it.
So how did your lawyers do? Goldstein seemed really, really excited, and I think at one point in the transcripts, the judge told him to calm down and slow down.
He talks so fast. That's his problem. So Goldstein doesn't. I don't think Goldstein has a lot of appellate, advocacy experience. He hasn't done a lot of that stuff. He's been attached to some of it, but I don't think he's had to be the guy at oral arguments. And he's just so full of information, and he's such a he spits fast. So he was talking too fast for the court reporter. And I don't think the judge could digest it either. His whole phase of the hearing was like the best part, because he was just hammering them with institutional history of the State Department and policy positions that they had that none of the people in the room there for state were even prepared to understand or argue against. So after he just delivers everything to the judge, Your Honor, come on, these guys are joking. We're preserving the status quo, not them. X, Y, and Z reasons. All these policy positions these are novel, these are new. This has never been the case. Go Google AR-15 right now on the internet. The files are right there. They've never in history enforced this regulation before. The judge is like, state, do you guys have anything to add? And I'm like, we're good, man. We're good, Your Honor. He just delivered. But yeah, he just had so much to say. He just spoke so fast.
How did you feel that him and Gura both did? Were you pleased?
You could tell, Gura was so casual about it, it almost didn't matter. Because we have to do it all over again at the Fifth Circuit.
He comes off really well in the transcripts, though.
Yeah, he's polished.
Very.
I'm not criticizing.
Well argued.
I'm saying it wasn't. You could just tell he was very casual about it. It didn't matter to him what the outcome was on this one. He just wanted to make sure he was presenting the broad strokes, and he didn't need to go to the mat on it. Matt was more excited, but I was pleased with both of their performances. It was just that you could tell the room, taking the temperature of my people in the room, they didn't feel like we had won until Goldstein had presented. But after Goldstein had presented, they were like, oh wow, you guys have got it. But that's just because they're not as familiar with all the law as we are,
So the judge and the state obviously said what the state did, quote, has an incidental impact on Cody Wilson's ability to disseminate this information, end quote. What do you think about that?
That's what the state said? Incidental?
Yeah, yes. Incidental was the word.
Their little argument for the judge, this is crazy. Surely they'll change it. But their little argument is, actually, we don't care if Cody Wilson spreads this information. He can spread it any way he wants. We're just asking him not to put it on the internet. Well, they can't mean that. And let me tell you why. Because I'm trying to put this stuff with open source licenses into the public domain, okay? Once I consign this information to the public domain, which they're saying they don't care about, just don't do it on the internet. Once it's in the public domain, by the law, it can then go on to the internet. So I don't think they're being careful. Or at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. But that posture of the judge makes it seem like, oh, what we're doing is very narrow. But no, it's a blanket ban on my speech in any form at all. Because the way I speak, I'm not just saying, hey, I want to share this with you. I'm saying, I now place this information I've developed into the public domain. I don't claim a patent or copyright, I've now consigned it to the public. Once it's there, it's beyond the reach of the ITAR, and it can go on the internet. They're saying, no, you don't have the power to do that. It's not just you can't post it to the internet, it's you can't put it into the public domain. There's certain speech that you cannot consign to the commons. That's literally what they're doing. But to the judge, they're just making it seem like, oh, Your Honor, we're just saying you can't post it online. This is not an accurate caricature of, characterization of what I'm doing. And they don't mean it. If I was to today go, okay, great, I'll set up a kiosk outside Brave New Books in Austin. Come on. Watch me put this stuff in the public domain. When I did that, I could then put it online. That's how the law reads.
My feeling was there's a disconnect between, when they say it's incidental, I think about it generationally. For someone your
That's
age,
fair.
it's
That's fair.
It's internet. It goes beyond.
Okay, let me try again.
Yeah.
So with the judge, by saying, oh, this is an incidental method of speech, there's plenty of ways of speaking. They're saying the internet is only like a secondary or tertiary way of speaking. They're not admitting that the internet is the main show, the way we speak, the way we access public information now. They're saying the internet's nothing special, nothing unique. It isn't itself the public commons. Yeah, they're literally arguing that. I'm making a more legalistic argument. I'm saying they have to care that I publish this information anywhere. Because if I put it in a book, it's just as dangerous legally as if I put it online. Because it is then in the public domain and then can come online. Because anything in the public domain is no longer controlled by ITAR and the State Department. So again, yeah, they're trying. I don't think that your description challenges them at all. If they say, well, yeah, Your Honor, the internet's new, maybe generations feel different about it. They'll just say that the law says that there are ways that Mr. Wilson can speak. He doesn't have to speak online. That doesn't necessarily disagree with how your description of the problem. I'm trying to say legally, it's a nonsense answer. It doesn't make any sense. Because I'm not trying to give it to you. I'm not trying to share it with you.
So there was a couple things that confused me in the trial and the transcripts. The state said, quote, "We believe the question is between rational basis and intermediate scrutiny, and that there is ample authority for the court to conclude that the rational basis analysis is what's appropriate."
Oh, okay. So this is like constitutional review, like constitutional scrutiny. There's basically 3 levels by which the issues can be reviewed by the court, and only strict scrutiny has the highest presumption of unconstitutionality attached to it. All the other ones are basically if there's rational basis, it's does the government have a reason to regulate this? Okay, if so, fine, it can do it. That's is there a reason? Is it just not a nonsense statute that and then even intermediate scrutiny is the same way. Well, is there a compelling interest the government's trying to preserve by having this regulation? Sure, national security. Okay, great. Well, then they can do it. Our argument is just by the letter of First Amendment doctrine. There's so many ways to get to strict scrutiny, but even as Alan was showing, we don't even need intermediate scrutiny. We don't just need it doesn't just matter about the level of constitutional review that we start with. There's so many other ways to get to unconstitutional on this that it doesn't matter. But of course the government's going to come in and argue, well, Your Honor, look, we think this is rational basis, the lowest level of attached scrutiny. We think this is open and shut, Well, there's a reason for us to regulate it, so we can regulate it. Obviously that didn't, even in this analysis, didn't fly. The judge was fine to accept that things that we thought would be a little bit more difficult, that the software is speech, the software can be considered protected speech. He basically was just saying, he wasn't interpreting Reed the way we interpret Reed and other things, and then he wasn't even willing to look at how the ITAR is functioning. Anyway, he didn't agree with him, but that's just them playing the game. They want to lowball it when they come in.
Were you surprised that they used your own words against you? For example, in the Wired article, the Vice video, and Glenn Beck.
Yeah, when they read that out, I was like, oh, good, okay, that's the best that they got. I didn't think they were really using that against me. Their whole argument is, well, Your Honor, he's trying to facilitate global production. That doesn't matter. We're talking about public speech, which is of global import and concern. So it doesn't affect the issues. So I think they were just trying to say, now this might hurt me if I was ever in like a criminal thing. Or like, oh look, you see, he's facilitating global arms export, but it doesn't hurt us for the case. So no, I didn't feel, when they read that stuff out, I was just like, I was really like worried they were going to pull something worse out, but they didn't.
This is a long paragraph, but I thought it was interesting. The state said, quote, and in the ITAR specific context, that opinion found that export of source code is not conduct commonly associated with expression. Rather,
What was the case?
Edler? Yeah.
Edler's, okay, go ahead.
Rather, the opinion concluded it is conduct that is normally associated with providing foreigners with the means to make something. We think there is ample authority in all of these cases for the court to conclude that because these 3D CAD files are intended to produce munition, and particularly whereas here plaintiffs intend to export them overseas, that a First Amendment analysis need not be conducted at all, end quote.
Right. That argument was completely rejected by the judge. Obviously, a First Amendment analysis happened and will happen. Yeah, they're trying to make the best arguments that they can to completely like moot our claims, but Edler, all these other authorities they can point to are businesses which skirted export law by directly giving technical data to manufacturers and basically like getting around having to get a license to get something produced. So foreign procurement, foreign production, but always with specific intent to do those things. We never publish with a specific intent to facilitate foreign production. We publish with the intent to consign our information to the public domain, to speak publicly, which is at the very heart of First Amendment analysis. And the judge doesn't look at those arguments charitably. You just, anytime you're going to read the state's brief, and I'm sure that when they read ours, you're going to see arguments that are that you think are asinine and terrible, and they're going to make you mad. And they're just doing the best they can to get away with what they can get away with. That won't work. And here we are. We're at the Fifth Circuit. All of our issues are preserved. First, second, fifth. The judge does not agree with them. So it's pretty simple.
What about the idea that the software, quote, according to the state, has a real world function, and so that should not be subject to First Amendment scrutiny at all?
So they're using bumper stickers from First Amendment and like code jurisprudence. But again, just because a speech has like a functional element or a conduct like an objective element doesn't invalidate his speech. And the doctrine's clear on this. Even when speech is mostly functional, like a raw machine code, it's been held to be protected as speech, as like combining linguistic and expressive elements. I mean, this is pretty easy in First Amendment jurisprudence. It's not hard, and the judge didn't take any of it in his order. A lot of these positions too that they're looking at are based on holdovers from the espionage cases, and they're not really up to. You have to cherry pick and you have to paint the best argument you can, but they're not really advantaged with good authorities when they're making their First Amendment analysis. Like, we're in really good territory on it. So, yeah, all state can argue is that, well, these CAD files allow you to do something, so therefore they can't be speech. But look, this is like what I'll argue later. Is nihilism. It's like, well, okay, Cody Wilson can speak as long as what he says can't be heard by foreigners, and as long as what he says can't allow anyone to do anything. That's nihilism. Say whatever you want, as long as no one can hear it. Say whatever you want, as long as no one can do anything with it.
So why not?
And there's there's this like absurd conjunction there, like that you'll see. They said these CAD files are intended to produce an article. Look, no piece of code carries with it a metaphysical intention, right? Not to get like philosophical, but it's like no piece of code by itself is intended to do anything or carries with it its own innate intention, right? The whole nature and idea behind open source software is that like you can look at it, you can study it, you can modify it, you can turn it into other things. It's not take it and turn it into a gun. And yes, like we provide design files and we provide STL files. Some of those files are more readily convertible into these articles if put into a 3D printer. But we're talking about the basis of design. We're talking about drawings of objects. You can't get from this drawing is intended to produce an article. You can't get there. There's no logical way to get there. It's just rhetoric. You know, and will it be convincing? Yeah, maybe. In this environment, ISIS, terrorism, national security. Ooh, certain drawings are bad, and you know they can be used to make things. But like a dispassionate inquiry just shows that you don't get there easy. And just because it's a drawing of something you don't like doesn't mean you can't draw it. You can't show other people the drawing.
So why not just limit your company to domestic distribution only?
Like, so you don't understand, like,
I'm just playing devil's advocate.
I know.
Because you could still, because Pirate Bay, whatever, you could, the files will still
That's
get,
what I'm saying.
get
Like,
global.
domestic distribution doesn't mean anything in this context. Not just because of globalism, that like, I'm not just distributing the files, right? When I publish a file, I'm not just putting it up for someone to take it. By that act of publication, I attach an MIT-derived license to it. I say, this file is now part of the public domain, right? In these limited ways. It's kind of open source license. It's now consigned to the public domain, all right? People are gonna hate this. We're like, well, literally, it's not the public, whatever. I assign the files with an open source license and like put them that way beyond the reach of patent law, you know, traditional IP law, and ultimately export law. I put it beyond the law by doing that. So it's not a matter of why can't you share it domestically? Fine. Can I consign it into the public domain domestically? Well, then the whole other argument about it going foreign is now moot. If it's public information, it's now anyone's. That's how the law works. So their argument is not that I can publish domestically. They don't mean that. They mean I can't publish at all. And they're just trying to get away with the judge's like unfamiliarity with the issue.
So if you were to come out, if you were to like, you know, announce like, oh, Defense Distributed is, we're just going to be strictly domestic from now on. We're just going to share the files. Like,
I know. This is the conversation I had with Matt as soon as the hearing was over, because I was just like, you know, this is bullshit, man. They're literally going to argue that like, oh, we're fine as long as he publishes domestically. So literally the day after the hearing, I could just go and release all these files open source domestically, and then they can immediately go online by the letter of the law, you know. And he's like, oh, don't do that, man. But literally, yeah, I could do that because that's their litigative position. Now, of course,
right.
I would still get smashed because that's not actually their position, and they would smash me. But for, you know, in this case with that judge, that was their position. Yeah.
okay.
They don't understand. They just do not understand the complexity of the ITAR. Or if they do, they're just avoiding it. What the law says is like when it's public, it's outside the scope of the law.
This is a legal question. What is qualified immunity?
Okay.
Like, what did that mean when the state said that?
So look, I didn't just sue these bureaucrats like in their official capacities. I also sued them in their personal capacities, with this idea that like ultimately, if we establish that what was done was unconstitutional and was known to be against the letter of the law, then these bureaucrats are also liable personally for violating my constitutional liberties. All right. So because they now have their own personal finances on the line, not just the government's going to say, oh, hey, our bad, we did something wrong. They'll have to pay, some of these individuals will have to pay a penalty, you know, exemplary damages and maybe even other damages for what they did. That's one of the claims we made. It's called a Bivens action. They wanted to get very quickly to the question of whether, in their official capacity, whether they have immunity against these types of actions. Well, you know, we act officially. We have, you know, you can't attack us for doing that. We're just doing our job. That's what it gets down to. And the judge said, no, we'll figure that out after we figure out the constitutional issues. But that was the last thing they tried to do me on. They were trying to get all their claims dismissed so they could go back to their lives and stop thinking about this. And luckily, the judge was like, no, we're not. Keep it all together.
So the state's case seems to be primarily suggesting, one, there was no outright ban on the Liberator files because you could still distribute them domestically.
Yes.
Two,
Yes.
National security is a compelling reason enough to justify what they're doing to you.
Yeah, I don't want to do a disservice to their argument. There's a little bit more to the argument than that. But yeah, ultimately they're arguing nothing unconstitutional happened. This is well within the wheelhouse of export law. In fact, export law has always been this way, and that ITAR has never been challenged.
And they kept saying there's no outright ban. Like they were saying, well, in this case there was an outright ban. In this case there was an outright ban. We've never outright banned what Cody's doing. We've just banned. It's just one thing. You know, it's just exporting it overseas is what we're.
And here's okay. That's just it. All right. So the argument they're making is, by putting the software online, the minute it goes online, that's equivalent to an overseas export. This has never been the interpretation of that law. I mean, this is what's novel about our action in our case and what they did to me. That was the first time they tried to assert those two positions and kind of cleave them together, like, or kind of join them. It's the first time that they've publicly made the argument that putting something on a network is a de facto export and requires their approval before you do it. And I know Bernstein happened as well, but Bernstein made this argument. We'll talk about this with Goldstein. Bernstein made this argument, hey, actually the ITAR says, state says that you have to get their permission before you can even publish things publicly, before you can even put it in the public domain. And state at the time said, no, this has never been the law. There's never been this kind of ban. Of course, now they're arguing with us, yeah, it's always been this way. So I don't know, what they're talking about here in the transcript is nonsense. Like, these people don't have institutional memory, they're not involved with enforcement, they're just assigned to win this case. They have no deep familiarity with the law, and that's why it's frustrating to watch a judge who doesn't know the law and state attorneys who don't know the law argue about something so narrowly when, like, by their arguments, I win. Like, if it was really, like, if the judge was to come back tomorrow and say, okay, great, Cody, you can publish domestically. Okay, I win. Because if I can publish domestically, it immediately gets back up online by how I'm trying to do it.
So it seemed like, to me, just my kind of analysis reading the transcript, that the public domain issue was it was almost like they were all avoiding it, the state and the judge.
I don't think they were just avoiding it. Like, they don't know it. They don't understand.
Is that what it was?
They don't understand. In, like, the paradigm just isn't there. Like,
there seemed to be no, like, the public domain issue.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean,
this law.
It didn't seem like they understood it at all or wanted to talk about it at all.
I really don't even think they don't understand that that's the argument.
Yeah.
Because I have all these claims about how, like, look, but a year ago I went to DOPSR, this division of DOD. It's a cognizant government authority for defense information. I was like, look, I have some files, AR-15 files I want to put online in the public domain. Give me the permission. And they're like, oh, we don't think we can do that. We don't have authority to do that. Okay. Well, you know, I'm not asking for licenses. I'm not asking to export anything. I'm trying to put my information in the public domain. They don't have a way. They know they want to stop that, but they don't have a way of explaining it in the law because the law is not there. The law presupposes that there will be institutions and manufacturers who want to conduct the commercial operations of export as we traditionally understand it, by munitions, by trade secrets and information to other, like, multinational companies, for the purposes of procurement or production. They don't just assume people will want to put this stuff into the commons, you know. There's never been, like, communist defense contractors in this sense, right? And so the law's not there. Like, there's no way to hold on to it. And I really don't. I was, you know, I'm looking at them during this hearing. I'm just looking, and I don't think there's just even this understanding, at least on that day, that that's the argument. They don't understand that, like, and this ultimately, this probably helps us if you can ever explain to the right person and get them to understand it. It doesn't matter if you let me publish it domestically or if you let me publish it online. If I put it in the public domain, it's there. And, like, under your law, once it's there, it can go online. They just don't get it, man. I really think that's what it is. Like, in this lawsuit, they don't get it. I think the authorities, enforcement, these guys that have done what they've done to me, I think they get that that's what I'm trying to do. And they're just using the best they can to bottle it up. They're doing whatever they can to kind of stop it, slow it down. God, that's the best answer I've got. Yeah.
So how high up do you think this is going to go?
I don't know. So, the guys at Fish told me that this is the first thing. Fish is this local law firm I've got in Austin. And they told me this, one of the guys told me this was the first thing he'd been attached to that he thought could go all the way. I hope it doesn't go to the Supreme Court. I mean, I have no faith in a gang of four there. But I think the Fifth Circuit will like the arguments. I think I'll have a fair hearing out there.
But even if you win early, I mean, isn't there something like
I don't even have to win.
Isn't if it goes to the Supreme Court though, win or lose, isn't there something like almost legendary about that?
Maybe, yeah. Look, it's just gonna cost so much money, man. Like, I don't know that I can even make it there. You know, like I don't even know if it's rude to say it, man, but I spent so much money the past 2 years just getting it to here, and like, oh my God, I don't know that I can do that again. Like, I don't, and it's been so hard. I don't want to do it again. But yeah, it's nice to be like, oh, I went to the Supreme Court, but come on, like, look at the way the wind's blowing, man. Like, even like reliable judges that you might think are like conservative or like the gun issue, they're still strong state, national security types. I mean, this could be a rare case of the entire court agreeing that I should shut up and go away. And I still believe, like, by the law, this one's open and shut, especially after how we treat the First Amendment after Reed, which just came down this last session. This one's easy. We win on the First Amendment, no problem. We don't have to look at the Second or the Fifth Amendment. We win on first. 2 or 3 ways you slice it, we win. But the gun politics cloud it, and I don't want to test it there. I want to win it at the Fifth Circuit, and I want to be able to kind of jeer at New York and California and be like, look, in Texas we can push this stuff on the internet. I'm happy with that. I'll live with that.
So if the gun politics cloud it, why have a Second Amendment defense? Why not just go with the First Amendment only?
I agree. Like, when I started this with Goldstein, I was like, look, let's just do it First Amendment. EFF will join. You might even get the ACLU to join if it's just a First Amendment case, right? I'm still a bad vehicle personally, and the facts are still really bad because it's all gun stuff. But if you make it a Second Amendment case, man, it's going to be tough to get friends. But ultimately, when we talked to Gura was like, look, I think it's a good Second Amendment case too. And one thing that attracted him and helped bind him to the effort was he wanted to make it a 2A case. And the Second Amendment Foundation wanted to come in, and they offered to help. I mean, they're paying like a quarter of my legal fees, man. So it was just politics at the end of the day. I mean, enough people wanted this to be a Second Amendment thing. And I waited. We've talked about this. And I was like, well, ultimately, this could be a good Second Amendment case. I think it's better as a First Amendment case, but okay. So we have the whole thing. Ultimately, SAF preserved this is a smaller point, but because SAF was a co-plaintiff, Second Amendment Foundation, because they were co-plaintiff, they preserved some of our standing arguments. So it was good that they were a co-plaintiff.
So soon after that, you printed the carbon fiber gun.
Yeah. When's this gonna air though? Well, we've got plenty of time before this comes out. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think in regards to the carbon fiber gun and all that stuff, it's like, I'm aware it's a sensitive issue, so we won't include it in anything without your
No, I just don't want to see me.
permission.
I just don't want to see me talking about it before I release it in real life.
Yeah.
Okay. You want me to talk about that?
Well, tell us about getting the printer and then printing it and.
Let me swap this. I gotta swap this other little battery again quick. This guy's chewing.
I think the last time that we spoke,